Hello, dear students and friends, and all the other members of my Udan the Education Hub family. I hope you all are well, happy, and healthy too. And in today's class, we will going to discuss about the summary of the poem Gitanjali 50 by none other than Rabindranath Tagore. Let's start. Must watch the full video, and if you like, please do a like. Must do share with your other friends and neighbors, and don't forget to subscribe my channel. Thank you so much. Analysis. Through a parable, Tagore's Gitanjali number 50 conveys to us an idea of the value of charity, love, and sacrifice, a spiritual message. God, disguised as a Raj beggar, asked for alms from the poet beggar who had himself been going about asking for alms because he himself had felt the pangs of poverty. Being in no position to give any alms, the poet beggar produced a single grain of corn from his alms bag and gave it to the King of Kings. On going home, the poet beggar felt amazed to find a piece of gold in his bag. The beggar referred to this poem in Gitanjali number 15 is none but the poet himself, as well as every man. One day he was begging from door to door in the village path, or it might be the endless wandering of humanity in the wasteland of modernity where there is no hope, no love, and no sympathy. En route, something unusual happened. There appeared at a distance a golden chariot that made everything bright with its golden hues. The chariot seemed to the poet to be a gorgeous dream of pomp and splendor. The poet thought in wonder who this King of Kings was. The King of Kings referred to in the poem is God, who is the supreme ruler of the universe. Seeing the golden chariot, the poet became hopeful. His hopes rose limping high. He thought that the King of all kings would give him unlimited wealth as alms, and the days of his misery would come to an end. So he stood waiting with eager expectations for the chariot to come near him, and for plenty of precious alms to be scattered in the dust. The chariot came and stopped where the poet stood, waiting for the King of Kings to come and give him alms. The king's glance fell on him, and he came down from the chariot with a smile. The poet now felt that the luck of his life had come at last. Come to a beggar to beg. In fact, he is the Raj beggar in this wasteland where he earnestly solicits love, compassion, and faith from his fellow subjects, human beings. But the world is stuck in the mud of materialism, and spiritualism is altogether missing. However, the poet beggar was utterly confused and stood undecided. After a while, He came back to his senses from his confused state of mind. He slowly took out from his wallet the least little grain of corn and gave it to the King of Kings. The word slowly used in the poem suggests the poet's reluctance to give alms to the king. It also reveals his miserliness. Again, the expression least little grain shows how miserly the poet beggar was. At the day's end, the poet beggar returned home and emptied his bag on the floor to see what he had collected on that day. His surprise knew no bounds when he found that there was a little grain of gold among the poor heap of the alms. He now he now understood that the King of Kings was God Himself, and the little piece of gold was given by Him. He also understood that this gold had great spiritual value because it was an embodiment of God's blessing on him. The poet bitterly wept because he gave the King of Kings only a little grain of corn. He realized that if he gave him his all, he would receive much more. He thus lost a great opportunity to surrender himself to God or the Lord of the life. And by doing this, he could elevate it to a higher spiritual plane from a lower material one. So he said, "With great regret, I had the heart to give thee my all." He then realized that the beggar was no other than God Himself in disguise. Thus, the poet beggar had been rewarded by God for the act of charity which the poet had done despite his own materialistic penury. In a nutshell, it is an interesting poem which tells a neat little story conveying a precious spiritual message